Have you ever set your phone on a table only to watch it wobble because of the camera bump? It almost feels like manufacturers forgot to make the back flat. But that raised camera isn't just a random design choice or a way to make phones look more professional. It's actually the result of years of engineering compromises, advances in photography, and the constant demand for thinner smartphones with better cameras. So why do phone cameras stick out in the first place? And could manufacturers make them completely flat again? Let's find out, right here, on History of Simple Things. The first camera phones from the late 1990s and early 2000s had extremely simple cameras. Models like the Kyocera Visual Phone VP210 in 1999 and later devices from Sharp and Nokia used tiny image sensors with fixed focus lenses that were only a few millimeters thick. Because the cameras were so basic, they fit comfortably inside the phone without protruding. As smartphones evolved, however, people began expecting their phones to replace compact digital cameras. Better image quality required larger sensors, improved lenses, autofocus systems, and eventually optical image stabilization. Those upgrades needed more physical space, while phones themselves kept getting thinner. That conflict gave rise to the now familiar camera bump. One of the biggest reasons cameras stick out is the image sensor itself. Think of the sensor as the digital equivalent of film inside a traditional camera. A larger sensor captures more light, producing brighter images, better colors, and less noise, especially in low-light conditions. But a larger sensor also takes up more space. Engineers can't simply flatten it without sacrificing image quality. Even though smartphone components continue shrinking, physics still places limits on how compact a high-performance camera can become. If manufacturers want flagship-quality photos, they need bigger sensors, and those sensors simply don't fit inside an ultra-thin phone body. Many people imagine a phone camera as a single, tiny lens, but it's actually made up of several carefully shaped lens elements stacked together. Each piece bends light in a precise way before it reaches the sensor. To produce sharp images from edge to edge, light has to travel a certain distance through those lenses. Camera engineers call this the optical path length. If that distance becomes too short, image quality drops dramatically, causing blur, distortion, and poor focus. In other words, even if every component became thinner, the camera still needs a minimum amount of depth for the optics to work properly. That's why flattening the entire camera module isn't as simple as shaving off a few millimeters. Modern smartphones don't just rely on software to reduce blurry photos. Many also use optical image stabilization, or OIS. Tiny motors physically move the lens or the image sensor to counteract your hand movements while taking pictures or recording video. That movement requires room inside the camera module. If everything were packed too tightly, the stabilization system couldn't move freely. This extra mechanical hardware is another reason today's premium phones often have larger camera bumps than older models. It's one of those hidden features you rarely notice until you compare blurry nighttime photos from older phones with the much sharper images modern devices can produce. Years ago, most phones had only one rear camera. Today, it's common to see 3 or even 4 lenses on the back. Each serves a different purpose, whether it's capturing ultra-wide landscapes, zooming in with a telephoto lens, or taking macro photos from just a few centimeters away. Some flagship phones even use folded periscope lenses to achieve long optical zoom. These systems bounce light sideways through prisms before reaching the sensor, allowing more zoom without making the phone dramatically thicker. Even so, they still require extra internal space, contributing to the size of the camera island. The more photographic options manufacturers add, the more room those components demand. Could phones ever have flat cameras again? Technically, yes, but there would almost certainly be trade-offs. Manufacturers could make phones thicker so the cameras sit flush with the back. In fact, if today's flagship phones were just a few millimeters thicker, many camera bumps would disappear entirely. However, consumers generally prefer slim devices that feel lighter and easier to hold. Researchers are also developing thinner lens technologies, advanced computational photography, and improved sensor designs that could reduce camera thickness in the future. But for now, no breakthrough has completely overcome the physical limits of optics. Until then, the camera bump remains one of the simplest ways to fit professional-level photography into something that still slips into your pocket. So, why do phone cameras stick out? It all comes down to balancing design with performance. People want smartphones that are slim enough to fit comfortably in a pocket, yet they also expect them to capture bright, sharp photos, record smooth, high-resolution videos, and perform well in challenging lighting conditions. Meeting all of those expectations requires camera hardware that simply takes up more space than the rest of the phone can provide. While the camera bump may seem like an inconvenience, especially when your phone rocks on a table, it's actually a visible reminder of the incredible engineering packed into modern smartphones. Every millimeter of that raised module houses carefully designed components working together to produce images that rival dedicated cameras from just a few years ago. Until a major breakthrough changes the rules of optics, the camera bump is likely here to stay. The next time you notice that little protrusion on the back of your phone, you'll know it's not there for style alone. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.